What's going on, everybody? LK here. Today I want to talk about Guilty Gear Strive Season 3, specifically the biggest changes I think they made to the game. So the patch came out last Thursday and I've been playing a lot because of course I want to get used to the changes. Biken changed a bunch. I want to talk about that stuff in other vids. Today let's just talk about the biggest changes because they made a bunch of major system mechanic changes to the game that honestly I feel like I'm playing the same game, but I feel like I'm playing a brand new version of the game for the first time in a long time. So they added two main new mechanics, Wild Assault and Deflect Shield. But Wild Assault so far has been the one that people have been really looking at so far as a major change to the game. There are three types of Wild Assaults. So one is red or orange. Most characters have this type of Wild Assault. It's the fastest and it's pretty useful for combos. Wild Assaults are cancelable into a lot of things such as jumps, backdashing, attacks, and special moves. And uniquely, they retain some forward momentum. So something like this, notice how Johnny just kind of goes flying there. Now, at the moment, people think this is the strongest one, the red or orange one. I'm going to say orange because it looks orange to me. Mostly because it's very easy to combo off these off far pokes. And that they're incredibly fast, basically unreactable. So the big thing is that Wild Assault takes away your burst on hit as well. So the fact that the orange one is so fast means that you can't react to it, and then once someone uses it on you, then it drains your burst gauge a little bit. So look a little bit more carefully at the combo I showed with Johnny. So he starts and he does this, and just before the wall splat, I get my burst back. Some characters have combos that do so much damage to the wall that you actually don't get your burst back until you splat on the wall, which means you can't burst, which is a pretty bad situation. And if I try personally to try to react to the Wild Assault, so I honestly, I only got it once. I feel like I kind of got lucky, I'm not gonna lie. Then we have the blue Wild Assaults. A lot less characters have this type of Wild Assault. So this would be Faust, Milia, Salto, Jacko, Happy Chaos, Biken, Bridget, and Asuka have this. So it's the same as the red one, as you could use it for combos, you could jump, backdash, normal, special cancel, but it has some additional extra properties that the orange Wild Assaults do not have. Mainly that it causes a guard crush on block, and on hit it causes a stagger. This stagger state is not very common in the game, and these characters can use these for a lot of unique setups. The main downside though is that it's slower than the orange Wild Assault, so for example, you will never ever get this to combo. Basically, you would have to get a counter hit for this to combo. And as a result of the Wild Assault being slower, it's a lot easier to burst the blue Wild Assault than the orange Wild Assault. So my goal here is going to be to try to only burst the blue Wild Assault. Let's see how I do. Okay, so I was doing this on base PS form, so I found it to be a little hard, like borderline hard. But if you're playing on like PlayStation 5 or PC, especially if you're on PC and you've like done a lot of stuff to reduce the delay of the game, it should be a little bit easier for you to do this. And then last we have the white Wild Assault. So basically only the old heavyweights have this. This is like Potemkin, Nagoriyuki, Gold Louis Dickinson, and Bedman. So uniquely, these don't have the same cancel options as the orange or blue ones. So in this recording, for example, I'm buffering Behemoth Typhoon, but nothing's coming out, right? So the big thing about these is that they have a guard crush. The other big thing is that they're invincible during the startup of the move. So not right away, but right there. Notice how I got punished there. So this has applications for both neutral, specific situations on defense, round start. If I had to point at any one change to the game, that's a big deal. I think this mechanic is probably the biggest single change to the entire game. I could probably talk about it in its own video, all the stuff that changes about the game, but if I had to give a summary, the big thing for me really is that you have to manage your burst in a different way. The burst meta kind of got like, I don't want to say solved. I mean, basically solved, honestly. How do you use it? Where do you use it? What characters have good ones? What characters don't have good ones? And what I mean is some characters, when they burst you or gold burst you, become, like, really, really strong. Some characters, when they burst you or gold burst you, they aren't necessarily super scary. Especially, gold bursts. Like, some characters can act immediately out of gold bursts and do scary stuff. Other characters have to get back in on you. So Wild Assault and the parry that they added, Deflect Shield, both add another aspect of burst that you have to think about. And especially with Wild Assault specifically, since you also take away burst on hit and on block, there is just a little bit more to think about and a little bit more to plan for. And consider too that there's what, 24, 25 characters in the game now. So there's definitely more to think about as far as an additional resource. So next, we got to talk about burst. Speaking of burst, right? So burst also got major changes. And what I would say is that burst got 3 major changes. One is the blue burst got changed, 2 is gold burst got changed, and finally the rate of gain of the burst got changed. So first, let's talk about blue burst. I have Happy Chaos here, and one thing that they used to do a lot, there's some characters in the previous version that were just better at baiting bursts. So for example, Happy Chaos has this move, the Curse Toss, that we all know and love. It makes him retreat, and this game has no air tech, so you could just not do it in any point of the combo, but there's a lot of points in Happy Chaos combos where they could just choose to do it, and if you were wrong, you would take another combo, and you were probably done for that round. So it looks something like this. Sometimes people do something like that, just a simple example. But with the current burst, now the current burst hits full screen. So an example here, this is something I'm sure you have had to endure before if you played this game. This is full screen Garcris shot with Curse. Okay. So before, there's not really anything you could do about this. I have him on infinite concentration, so he's gonna do this like forever. But you do technically have the option now to do a burst, and the shockwave will reach full screen now. It also makes things that were previously burst safe not burst safe, because again, the old burst was more like a classic Arxis burst where you would rise up a little bit and just burst, like, get off me. They already nerfed burst in season 2, making it not pop up as high because some characters like Giovanna and Mei were better at doing burst safe combos than other characters. But I have an example here with Baiken, where this combo I'm about to do used to be burst safe on the tether hit, but is no longer because of this burst change. I actually get punished in a spot where normally the burst would just whiff and I would be able to combo. The burst also has way more block stuns, so there's some combos that are different now because your burst punish is going to be different because they're not as high as they used to be. So that actually used to combo. The close slash dash close slash used to combo, now it doesn't. And this thing now is character specific. Then we have Gold Burst. So the way the old Gold Burst worked is that it was punishable on block, it was minus 10. But when it connected, you would get 100 meter immediately. Now it is minus 2 on block, so notice how I'm not getting a punish here. Baiken's Far Slash is 9 frames, so normally I would be able to punish the old Gold Burst. I can no longer do that. The only way to punish it now is by instant blocking it. If you instant block it, you can get a throw the way I did just now. But I find this to be quite difficult, but to be honest, the more time passes, I think the more people will try to go for this. An important thing to note is that the Gold Burst gives you positive bonus on hit. So now this is an additional situation where you can get positive bonus, right? Because normally in the previous version of the game, you'd only get positive if you, realistically, you could actually get positive bonus another way, but realistically the only way you would get it is by breaking the wall. Now you get it by doing a charge just combo or hitting a Gold Burst or breaking the wall. So it's kind of the old game is if you hit Gold Burst, you get 100 meter immediately. The current game is if you hit Gold Burst, you'll get 200 meter eventually. The important thing to note here though is that positive, actually you regain your burst extremely quickly when you get positive. So if you look here, I'm going to burst Happy Chaos with Gold Burst. He's going to burst back immediately. Now compare the meter gain here. So I already have like 25%. It's just racing up, right? While while the rate of gaining burst is way faster in this game, I shouldn't say way faster, but it's faster, mine's is already almost back, and there it is, by the time that HC is almost at the R of his burst speeder. So it actually is a big deal, and I still have the positive bonus from doing the gold burst still, on top of having my burst back already. So you could argue that the gold burst right now is stronger than the old one overall. While the old one was just like, it's party time, I'm gonna force myself on you, the new one gives you way more resources, and you can make a mistake again because you have your burst back, or try to gold burst again. Well, next I want to talk about a pretty popular tactic from the previous couple seasons that people try to find with their characters. If your character has a good one, it's definitely a good sign in Season 2. It is the wall slump tactic. Basically, the way this game works is your character could have a couple of match flows. Some people don't like this about the game, but I find this to be at least a thing you have to consider with your character that I think is interesting for developing a game plan. So this game is different from basically almost every other 2D fighter because you don't get stuck in the corner in a normal way. When you do corner combos, you do damage to the wall, right? Something like this. So now, at this moment, you might think I have to make a choice, but I actually had to make my choice when I was hitting him right before I was about to break the wall, because there's a few things you could do. You could choose to keep the corner, so not even letting them splat on the wall, which requires combo adjustments. You can simply break the wall, normally, which we call a neutral wall break. You can break the wall with a super, which we would call a super wall break. The super knocks down. Now you have Wild Assault as an option as well. The Wild Assault also causes a hard knockdown that takes away your burst, so keep that one in mind. And there was one unique one called Wall Slump, where if you got a person to stick to the wall on the ground, so not on the air, they wouldn't be able to like bounce off the wall. So here, Happy Chaos is wall, you call this wall splat, so he's just on the wall, so if I don't hit him again, he's gonna fly away. He can go down, he can go out, he can just fall normally. But you'll see here, Happy Chaos, what he does is he can just keep me on the wall. So I can't recover here. I just slide down, and he could choose to do mix-ups here. So there were a couple of characters that were really good at using this, and it's pretty strong. The main thing is you don't do a lot of damage, but you get to build resource at your own pace and use it to close the game. Many characters use this. Happy Chaos, Zato, Ino. There are a few characters that use it situationally, like Viking uses it like situationally, for example. So the big change they made here is now on subsequent slumps, you just build a ton of burst. They really are trying to discourage people from doing this, and instead use the new mechanic instead to break the wall. I do think it's a good change. I thought Wall Slump was a little corny. Like it's funny coming from me too, because it's basically just like traditional mix-up, but the main thing is you're doing like no damage. You're doing it to build resource, so you're usually taking, depending on what character you're playing, like several mix-ups of them building meter and doing like no damage to you just to checkbait you. So I would rather just die in the couple of mix-ups than have to sit there and take like the same thing over and over basically in like one round, because again, they're gaining way more resource than the defender is. So this is encouraging people to use either like Wild Assault or just some other strategy, which I think is better. And then last but not least is positive itself. So there's more ways to get positive bonus than before, but as I mentioned, you can get it off dust. Gives you positive bonus now, and Wild Assault gives you a wall break that takes away your burst and gives you positive bonus in addition to just the normal way of getting positive bonus. So again, like I showed before, the big thing about positive bonus is not the meter. So I mean, we're used to like the meter stuff. It's how quickly you get your burst back. So there are a lot of implications of this depending on how good your character is at using positive bonus. The main thing being that when you break the wall, then whatever sequence you do, you're going to get some percentage of your burst back, which has really strong implications for how the rounds are going to go overall. So this one is the one I'm most curious about, because I feel like there were characters that were already really strong positive before. So, for example, like Zato, Happy Chaos, Chip is another one, Ramethal is another one. So this is just an example of how quickly the burst builds back in positive and using it combined with the meter. So I have Giovanna here. I usually use Giovanna to show off positive stuff. I don't really know why it always works out that way, but it does. And just gonna break the wall real quick with this routing. Everything very simple examples. Of course, this isn't a hard knockdown. I'm just gonna take it just because. And it begins. She's gonna be building meter here. She's out of meter now, almost. But she used the Wild Assault to get to extra. And then now the positive is out. So I didn't have to even use the Wild Assault, really. So this time pay attention to the burst rather than just like the buttons I'm pressing, you know? So I'm gonna break the wall here. And then again, I'm just gonna take this, no problem. She starts the string, building the meter, and here's where she does Wild Assault, right? So when I broke the wall, I probably had around like 5-6% max burst, and I got the 50 back in just a couple of reps of this string. Of course, you know, this is just an example. You can FD this string. There's a lot of weaknesses to what I'm doing. I'm just showing that this is a thing that can happen in the game, and there are characters that had like legitimate pressure block string quote-unquote infinites like Chip and Ramifal. Alright, but let me know what you guys think. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Shout out to all the people who are on Patreon. We do a bunch of like special content over there. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.